All right, happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome in to Concrete Jungle New York Baseball Podcast, coming to you live from the third floor of the North Park Building, FingerLakes1.com, Seneca Falls, New York. Paul Russo, alongside me, as always, Kyle Evans, Nate Charbin behind the scenes, turning the keys, flipping the switches, all the fun stuff there. So, obviously, I know I mentioned at the end of last week, Thursday, right? Be back Monday and Thursday this week. That didn't happen, so we are going to momentarily peel back the onion a little bit. I think it's the proper term, right? Something like that. And give you an explanation as to why we weren't here or live on Monday. So exciting stuff happening at FingerLakes1.com. Building a new studio. Our new anchor desk got delivered on Monday. We just didn't know what time. And as timing would have it, it was a good idea. We decided to hold off and not do it because it was a little bit of an all-hands-on-deck situation. The desk got dropped off here about 11:30, 11:45, which means we would have had to chop off and end early. So we made the right decision, as I call it. I'm happy to say that, but glad to be back. Hopefully there won't be any crazy stuff like that. I think there's only one Monday really coming up in the near future we won't be recording. That'd be July 4th. So, but that's America. Anyway, now we've gone through that. How's everybody doing today? It's been a hectic week of sorts, I suppose, around here, like I mentioned.
Yeah, it's good to be back talking baseball. I'm doing pretty well. Again, my team just keeps rolling. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All good on my side, gentlemen. Was pretty happy to not be in office on Monday. I had to take that one off, so I was.
How did that go, by the way?
It was a good time. We had a good time. But felt bad for you boys back here doing the heavy lifting for that anchor desk.
It wasn't even so much the boys. So luckily, Caleb, I don't know, was Caleb in the head shot back there for you, Nate? But either way, you don't have to put him up and make it awkward. There he is. He decided to give us his best taekwondo karate skills with the crates and such after the fact. So
yeah, shout out to you. You did a great job.
Things got hairy there for a minute. Anyway, yeah, a lot to kind of get to today. Admittedly, not a ton of actually in-game stuff to kind of get to this week. Both the Yankees and Mets were off on Monday, so only really a couple games to recap from the week itself for them. But some bigger key news and notes to get to with them, and our minor league teams. It's been it's weird. They kind of flipped the past week for a moment of time here, so we'll touch on that. And just gotta say, shout out to Kyle Evans here. Obviously, our sports director here at Finger Lakes One, absolutely killing it with the Red Wings and S-Met stuff, and you'll be able to go to the game on Tuesday because of it. So that's pretty awesome.
Appreciate that, Paul.
Yeah. All right, let's jump on in. We'll do the Yankees first, I guess, here and kind of get this show on the road. The Yankees 46-16 now, first in the AL East, 6-game winning streak. So the hot start continues on Tuesday. First game with Tampa Bay, 2-0 victory there. Garrett Cole picks up the win, moves to 6-1 on the year, a 3.33 ERA. Corey Kluber takes a loss, sits at 3-3 now with a 3.5 ERA. Clay Holmes picked up his 10th save of the season there. Garrett Cole, 6 innings of 5-hit baseball and 7 strikeouts. Zach Kiner-Falefa, 2 for 4, double, and the lone RBI of the game. And Anthony Rizzo picked up a hit in 3 at-bats for the Yankees. So it was a bit of a ho-hum game, a bit of a wouldn't call it maybe an outright pitcher's duel in that sense. I know Tampa Bay had a couple errors along the way, which was the reason that Kluber actually only got dinged up with a single earned run. So, I think, we've been talking about this, I feel like, at least in Yankee circles for the past, gotta be at least handful seasons, especially within the Kevin Cash era. These teams are the ones that usually give us really good battles in and out each series and stuff like that. And look, the series collectively itself was no exception, but it was a really nice pitcher's duel of sorts on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's just so weird seeing the Rays this year. They're not hitting the ball well. They're making errors in the field. It kind of feels like it switched. The past few years when the Yankees have played them, their offense has really struggled against their pitching, and they were the ones making the errors, and it's just reversed now, and it's just so nice to be able to sit back and watch it.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't know. It's actually an interesting point I'm going to bring up here because it's something that I've discussed with a couple different people more from the Red Sox side of things. In all honesty, it's weird because it does feel like the closest team to being a rival of the Yankees the past few years, really, I guess maybe the better part of a decade. In all honesty, has been the Rays. But even then, I don't necessarily pinpoint them with any hatred. Like, they got a lot of dudes on that team that I like. I know I've mentioned before, and I know he pitched yesterday for the Rays. Like a guy like Shane McCallahan, who young, really good. Like, he's going to be good for a long time. Personally, excuse me, one of my favorite players in baseball, and one of the most underrated hitters in baseball, Manuel Margot, is on the Rays. And look, they got a bunch of young guys too. I mean, obviously, I didn't bring up a guy like Wander Franco yet, and guys like that. Plus, I mean, they're retro uniforms that they wear a couple times a year. I mean, they're always fire. So
I can't let you talk about the Rays without talking about my favorite player in baseball,
G-Man Choi.
Randy Arozarena.
Ah, a Rose and Beans. Yeah, I mean, I didn't mention him either. I mean, that's the thing, right? So, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to follow through the years here. Obviously, you mentioned Kyle a really good point about how they haven't been hitting all that well this year. This is a team that usually does hit extremely well. I mean, this is a team where normally it's only Mike Zunino really kind of putting up the numbers that they've been putting up, and Zunino's been putting up Zunino numbers, and everybody else has been putting up Zunino numbers in that sense.
Yeah, it's just been really odd. Their pitching's still really, really good, but their offense, I mean, every team hits a tough stretch, but it just seems like this offense isn't the same one we saw in previous years.
Speaking of the offense for them, they came on late yesterday, a 4-3 Yankee victory. Nestor Cortez picks up the win, 6 on the year, moves to 6-2, still a sub-2 ERA at 1.94. Mentioned Shane McCallahan, 7-3 now on the year. He picked up the loss. Very much still well below 2 ERA at 1.84. Clay Holmes picks up his 11th save on the year. Nasty Nestor, our dude, goes 5 1/3, 3 hits, and earned run and 4 strikeouts. Kyle Higashioka, 1 for 3, 2-run home run. He had a 3-run home run, rather. And then Aaron Judge also picked up a solo home run as well. So things got a little bit hairy there in the 8th inning with our guy Lucas. But he seems to be kind of the not the right cog in that bullpen machine at the moment, all things considered, even though he was very good last year, and I think he still is good. I think he's just kind of going through a rough patch, but did have a moment there yesterday where the Rays offense kind of looked like they were about to get alive, and all things considered, the Yankee bullpen kind of ended up holding it down, and Clay Holmes, again, which we'll touch on a little bit more of this here in a minute with Clay Holmes, but just another stellar job by him in the 9th inning.
Yeah, Clay Holmes, every time he takes the field, it's like it's automatic. Like, they're going to win. And if it wasn't for Rizzo's error in the 9th yesterday, it would have been a 1-2-3 inning again. So just very impressive by him.
So the Yankees here, interesting spot at this point now with the division. Most wins in baseball. Best team in baseball, I guess, by that margin.
I think like 5 games, I'm pretty sure.
On pace right now to beat the 2001 Mariners for record-wise. Not maybe hope to be a little bit better than they ended up being that year in the long run. But another thing, it's interesting. Aaron Judge obviously is at 27 home runs, and he is tied with pretty good company, Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle, for most through the first, I believe it's 65 or something like that, games through the year, something like that. Could be a little bit off, or 60 games, I think it actually is, but
I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's 25.
Something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So 25 homers.
But they're both they had a graphic up yesterday about how they're all at 27 at the same date or something like that.
Because he was halfway to 50.
Yeah.
This is the discussion we should have in probably 2 or 3 months. But
Sure.
is there a part of you guys that is a little bit scared that he could leave next year, or is that something we're not even going to think about yet?
I don't know about scared, but I mean, it's certainly a possibility. I wouldn't blame him if he left. I mean, I do have a feeling that he will.
See, I'm the other way around. I think there's really no shot. I think he just loves the Yankees that much. I think he's obviously just trying to get more money, and this is the way to do it.
Yeah, bet on yourself and win, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the motto.
I mean, I don't know. It will be interesting. I don't know if it's just necessarily just something we'd have to wait to do, though, Nate. I mean, this is a guy who, look, the Yankees lowballed him, bet on himself. Certainly going to earn whatever money he gets in the offseason from whether it's the Yankees, the Giants, the Red Sox, Angels. It don't matter. You know, whoever's going to give him the paycheck will give him the paycheck.
What if he goes down to Brooklyn?
And play for the Nets?
Oh, I mean the Mets, excuse me. Misspoke.
Queens, you mean?
I know.
Yeah, that's a team that's popped up. It hasn't been the past couple weeks, but a team that has popped up over the course of really the season about that.
Well, he could play for the Nets as well. I mean,
It's a fair point.
pretty tall.
I mean, they need all the help they can get. So, I saw Caleb back. Caleb's back here just laughing. But yeah, okay. Anyway, let's get to our news and notes about the Yankees here, and then we can dive a little bit further in. Speaking of closing, Aroldis Chapman has officially tossed from the Yankee Stadium mound. Next step is to be live batters. Aaron Boone, Matt Blake saw, and I guess Mike Harkey was also involved in it. They all liked what he saw and what he did. So next step will be live BP.
I like how you gave a shout out to Mike Harkey. He doesn't get a lot of
I love Mike Harkey.
recognition.
What's interesting here is when Chapman does return, I'm baselining probably at least 2 weeks out. He will. It will be a closer by committee style decision per Aaron Boone, where Clay Holmes will take more of the high pressure and high leverage situations, whether that's the 7th inning or the 8th inning. That's where we're at. I think part of it is an underrated aspect of this is Zach Britton, who we talked about last week. No major update to provide there out of the fact of what he's been doing. He's still, I guess if anything, he's moved down to Tampa technically and is working rehab full time at the moment down there. But my guess is once Britton comes back, because he's progressed a little bit further along the timeline than they thought he would be right now, would be Clay. Clay would handle those high leverage, and then Zach would handle whether it's the 7th or 8th or 9th, wherever, and then Chapman would do the closing. But I don't know. I think I'd just roll with the hot hand and still stick with Holmes at this point. I struggle with this. And look, maybe it was a health thing with Chapman, and he'll come back, and maybe the fastball still's a little bit down because he is older, but maybe that slider does come back and it has that bite again. I could be wrong. I could be right in our thinking, but I think I'd rather ride the hot hand right now of Clay Holmes than just more or less give it outright to Chapman at this point.
Yeah, and I really don't want to go through another postseason with Chapman closing games. I mean, he's literally ended our season a couple times. Like, giving up home runs is it's frustrating. Like, if I'm Aaron Boone, like, why wouldn't you not want to stick with Holmes every single time?
Right.
Yeah, you signed Chapman to do, to close games, but he hasn't been effective. He's not the same pitcher. And then when he's on for what, 2 weeks? And it's right back to walking batters, being wild, not finding the strike zone.
Right.
That's not a closer. It's just, I don't know. It's time to move on from Chapman. It's going to be so frustrating when he comes back and he's closing games, and especially if he starts blowing them. And I don't know. I'm just not a fan of Chapman.
Yeah, I'm going to hold out hope. I'm cautiously optimistic. Like I said, I know the fastball velocity is just not going to be there. He's older now. He's not going to be humming 100 every time. I mean, that's just the way it is. Father Time is undefeated. But, yeah, like I said, I'd assume just ride the hot hand. I'm not going to, I guess, sit here and question. I think a lot of it might be, again, what we've discussed a little bit on here, and I know off air, I don't know how much of this is actually more or less Aaron Boone talking as much as it is Cashman and the higher-ups, so.
And that's the thing, like you just said, yeah, his velocity is down, But then his secondary pitches, he's just hanging them. He's not, he doesn't have command with them. It's like, how can you be effective when your fastball's down? You hang your curveball. Like, what are you going to? Your slider?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I don't know. I just don't think he has it anymore.
Jonathan Loisaga, good news, has returned to the United States, has returned to the Yankees. All is well with his family now. He has began a throwing program. Their hope is to have him getting back and going here at some point in early to mid-July. I mean, other than that, it's been a pretty quiet week on the Yankee front, admittedly. Sometimes no news is good news in that sense. I'm not going to sit here and act as if I want all sorts of headlines, although it would give us a lot more to talk about. Sometimes it's perfect that way, and obviously for our lasagna boy, it's good to see that he is, progressing along. I mean, this again another big bullpen piece that when he gets healthy and when he comes back, you can maybe not necessarily have to worry about having a guy like Lucas out there. Or,
Shout out to Wandy Peralta. He's been really good.
I was going to say Wandy, but Wandy's been quietly good, and also Miguel Castro as well.
Yep.
Yankees quietly have won that trade, by the way. Surprisingly. I don't know how, but alas, here we are.
Shout out to Matt Carpenter as well. Had a great Sunday, 7 RBIs, 2 homers.
All right. I'm going to ask everybody here. Does Matt Carpenter look like the WB Mason guy logo?
You sent me that picture, and I agree.
Thank you. Kyle?
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah. I mean, what a fantastical pickup. So, all right. Yankees still have one game left at Tampa Bay. That's today at 7:05 on Yes. Jalen Beeks, or Bex, I don't know how I'm technically supposed to
It
pronounce
looks like they're
that.
going a bullpen game by starting him.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm technically supposed to pronounce that, unfortunately, but he's 1-1 on the year, 1.38 ERA, as you mentioned. Probably will be a bullpen game. Luis Severino for the Yankees, 4-1 and a 2.8 ERA. Tonight, getaway. Hop that flight, row north of the border to Canada. 3-game series in Toronto, the second time this year. Blue Jays are 37-25, second in the AL East. This is a Friday through Sunday series. Rejoice, Kyle. You need not worry. All games are on Yes this week.
That is unbelievable.
So, we have a 7:07 start tomorrow night. Now, preface it with this. The Blue Jays rotation at the moment is all TBA for the weekend. Reason being, rotation is a little bit in flux. Ryu's officially out the rest of the year, I believe,
Yep,
right?
that's what I saw.
Okay. So, not too sure what we'll see fully out of Toronto over the weekend. But we'll be interested in kind of see. Toronto always plays tough. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. had his first walk-off home run. Last night. So
Was it a home run? I thought it was a double.
I
Can you
thought it was a
confirm?
home run. I don't. Okay. Well, look, it was a long day. We had golf yesterday. Me and Nate. We had golf. I had my own baseball to attend to at night. It was a long day out in the sun for me.
Yeah, congrats to the Blue Jays. You beat the Orioles.
Jeez, come on.
I think we have to have Caleb on Monday, and we'll help to recap the series.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
Oh, that would be fun. I forgot. Yeah.
Caleb can go hop over in seat 2, as we call it. So, but Friday 7:07, Jordan Montgomery at least will be throwing for the Yankees, 2-1 at 2.7 ERA. Saturday at 3:07 first pitch, Jamison Tyone, 7-1 at 2.93 ERA, and then Sunday it's cold day, 1:37 first pitch. So, I do think the Yankees winning streak comes to an end in Toronto. Might come to an end tonight, in all honesty. So, I mean, who knows? But at least with Toronto, with a little bit of remains to be seen, officially out of that of the rotation for Toronto. They always play the Yankees tough. I mean, I'm guessing Manoah's going to be somewhere in there. So right there's to me a loss for the Yankees. Look, Manoah's good, man. Like, I don't think people realize that, like, how good he is. So,
Oh, he's good.
and his brother pitches in Rochester. Fun fact. So, or he did. I don't know if he still is at the moment. Either way, we'll go probably 2-1 out of the Yankees in Toronto. I'm thinking.
Yeah, they sweep tonight, go 2-1 in Toronto. That's what I think.
So, all right, we will move on to the Mets then. cruising in at 41-23, first in the NL East. Been taking on the Brewers all week. A tough matchup. So Tuesday was a 4-0 Met victory. Chris, he wants his Cy Young back. Bassett picked up the win, 5-4, a 3.89 ERA now. Adrian Hauser picked up the loss for the Brewers. He now moves to 3-7 on the year. Your top performers, Chris Bassett went 8 innings of shutout ball, 3 hits allowed, 7 strikeouts. Pete Alonso, 2 for 3, a walk, 2 RBIs and a run scored. And then Brandon Nimmo, 2 for 4 and a double and a run scored there. So, nice little outing for the Mets there. And real good job, obviously, by Chris Bassett. Nice bounce back game for him against a very tough and a very good Milwaukee Brewers squad.
Yeah, it was a really good start to the series, coming back home, way to start it off. With the Braves, winning, 14 straight now?
Yeah.
Kind of puts the pressure on them. I mean, believe they're now just 4 games back from the Mets. When last week, 10? 2 weeks ago, it was like 10?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot more pressure on these Mets. You're not really rolling as much as you were 2 weeks ago, and you're 8-6 in your last 14. It's maybe time to be a little concerned. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll touch on that a little bit here, obviously with our notes portion. But yeah, I mean, I could understand why there might be some concern. I'm not overly worried.
It's just because of the past, I think, too. A lot of Mets fans know what's happened in the past. They don't want another repeat of it. They jump up in the NL East early on in the year, and the second half they just fall off, and I think that's kind of what Met fans are a little scared of right now. Although they keep forgetting they're getting 2 amazing pitchers, coming back pretty soon. So I don't know. And the Braves are going to cool off. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious, I think, that they're going to.
And I mean, they just play the Nationals, so let's be real.
But the thing with the Mets too is, we kind of said that when they jumped out as hot as they did and got hurt the way they kind of play 500 ball and you'll be fine. They've been fine. I'm not panicking yet. You mentioned, right? I mean, the Braves are on a. Well, I mean, it all depends. I mean, we're still a week away from really discussing the true history of if they do get to the 20-game mark or anything like that. But, I mean, they're on a heater. I mean, plain and simple. Wednesday, yesterday, Mets take a 10-2 loss. Corbin Burns picked up the win for the Brewers, 4-4 now on the year, 2.52 ERA. And just a rough one for Drew Peterson. Can't lay a ton of blame on him, in all honesty. Moves to 3-1 on the year, 3.6 ERA now. Mets' bright spots offensively was Nimmo. Again, 2 for 4. This time a triple and a run scored. Jeff McNeil went 2 for 4 with a home run, 2 RBIs and a run. Starling Marte went 1 for 2. Also got hit by a pitch. We'll touch on that, though, in just a second. Tough one for the Mets. Like I said, Peterson, can't really blame anything on him too much. They brought in Jake Reed, and
5 runs.
Yeah, just got absolutely shelled. I mean, Peterson did what he had to do through 4 innings, got you to the point where you could still be in it. But, also, Corbin Burns is best pitcher in the NL debate. I don't know, but I mean, he's been one of my favorite guys to just kind of watch throughout the past couple of years as he's developed along and kind of seen how he's progressed. But look, Corbin Burns just went out there and pretty much did Corbin Burns things for the Brewers more or less yesterday, and their bats, really showed up for him this time around. And brief moment of whatever here. I got family out in Wisconsin, it's where my mom's from, and we go out from time to time. Been to my fair share of Brewers and seen my fair share of Brewers games out here. But brief congratulations to Craig Counsell, became the most winning manager in Brewer history yesterday. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
maybe not saying a super ton, but either way, like I said, I think yesterday was just more or less Corbin Burns was Corbin Burns, and just as I say, gave the theoretical finger to the rest of the league. Like, I still definitely have this, like, take notice.
Yeah, and like we kind of mentioned in past podcasts, Mets really have to go out at the deadline and grab a reliever or two. That's kind of sometimes been their weakness. Jake Reed should not be in their bullpen, in my opinion. So, and Steven Nagosiak has been in there a lot, up and down. Yohan Lopez has been up and down a lot. Just guys that aren't super reliable. They're just back and forth. They're trying to figure out which one to keep. And if I'm the Mets, I go out and try to get a reliever.
Well, luckily for you, we'll touch on Nogasek and Lopez here when we get to our Syracuse Mets discussion. Fun fact, but yeah, I mean it's tough. They'll have pieces to make moves at the deadline.
Maybe
And
Joely Rodriguez has struggled.
yeah, yeah. I mean that's going back to that trade. I mean it was just a straight up swap of Rodriguez and Castro with the Yankees trade there, and like I said, I think the Yankees more or less have won it quietly. I don't think people kind of realize how good actually Castro has been. It's a lot similar, I guess, in a way with the way they did the Holmes deal, but either way. So touch on this. Obviously, starting Marte. Obviously, left the game yesterday after being hit in the pitch. It was in his right forearm. X-ray came back negative. There's no fracture. However, there's a lot of bruising, so he is day to day. Marte's been unfortunately keeps getting these minor dings and dents really over the course of the past couple weeks, and he hasn't been fully in and out of the lineup. He's been more in than out, but just a tough spot for a really great player. Obviously, a fan favorite overall. I mean, Nate loves him still.
Former Pirate.
Pirate legend, as we say. So, look, like I said, it tough for him at this point. It's now a couple different times he's been plunked and has had to deal with injury. So, but day to day, that's a nice solid. Pretty much he'll probably be out of the lineup today. A little bit of rest. It was a 97-mile-per-hour Corbin Burns backdoor cutter that did not do anything. So, not pleasant in the slightest.
Not at all.
If I got hit by a 97-mile-an-hour backdoor cutter, I'd be out for more than a day.
I mean, I've always said this, and I mean, I kind of chuckle because I can tell you the last time I got beaned in organized ball was the last year I played full-time in 2016, and it was just pretty much a rainbow curveball to the knee, and it didn't bother me. But I mean, at the end of the day, like nobody likes getting beaned at any speed. It's never pleasant, never fun. Pretty sure we can all attest to that in this room anyway. So, all right, other updates. I pretty much the rest of these are pretty positive. In fact, actually for the Mets, you mentioned Kyle about guys coming back here, but we don't start with a pitcher. We start with the opposite. Their battery mate catcher, James McCann, officially has began his rehab assignment. He's starting off with Double-A Binghamton and has joined the team down in Bowie as they take on the Bay Sox this week. He has been out 4 weeks with, I believe it was the wrist injury? They all run together for me at this
Is that
point.
weird
thing
that you mentioned that one time?
Yeah, so good to see he's coming back. Obviously, the catching position's been a little bit in flux for the Mets, obviously, since he has been out. So much needed. We know what he can kind of do or slash what he can't do. And if he just comes back and pretty much bats what he was doing and do what he was doing before he got hurt, they should be just fine behind the plate the rest of the year. Max Scherzer slated to go out and start a throwing program here in the next few days with the hopes of minor league rehab assignments beginning shortly thereafter. Again, they didn't expect to probably have a very strenuous timeline or rehab timeline with him. More or less once he was ready to go, they knew that he'd be ready to go. So good to see there. Remains to be seen kind of where they put Scherzer, though, for rehab. I know to go into the well a little bit, obviously locally here with what Strasburg did, but he started off with, I believe he had one start with the Fredericksburg, 2 with Harrisburg, and another 2 with Rochester. So,
And I believe Syracuse is in Rochester next week.
yes.
Yep, that's what I was just going to say. Do we have any shot? Probably
So maybe
not.
next
Probably a little
weekend?
too quick.
Maybe next
I think
Sunday?
I think that might be a little bit too quick in the headline. I know Syracuse is home the following week after, for what that's worth, but we'll see. I think it remains to be seen. Quite like I said, a lot of it all just depends where each kind of team is at logistically. Like, it's not, like I said, it's not ideal maybe that James McCann is on the road with Double-A Binghamton. But here's the thing. Syracuse this week is in Norfolk, which Triple-A further south even than Bowie. I'm not sure where Single-A, High-A Brooklyn is, but the way High-A ball is in that league now, the way it's structured, Brooklyn could be as far south as, I believe, I want to say Columbia, South Carolina. And then obviously, if you take them even further, I mean, single way St. Lucie is all the way down in Florida, and they stay in Florida. So it all depends, right, location wise. I know, again, not to go too far deep into Strasburg, obviously with Rochester, was brought back before AAA, before Rochester went out to St. Paul, for example. So
And he's already back on the injury list, by
right,
the way.
right. So we might see him again in Rochester this year. Anyway. Oh, man. One of the really feel-good stories, as I call it, of the Mets pipeline so far this year between Syracuse and then gets up to the big league club and did really fantastic with them. Colin Holderman has been placed on the injury list with a right shoulder impingement and is considered week to week. They're not expecting him back until probably at the very earliest at some point end of July. Gave up 3 straight walks, and they kind of went out and realized that something was probably off with him, which is a shame. Like I said, I mean, he's been fantastic since being called up to the big league club, and was really one of the lone bright spots early on for the Syracuse Mets on the year.
Yeah, that's the thing. We keep mentioning these guys, and a lot of them just keep coming from Syracuse. And when you take them away from Syracuse, their bullpen gets weaker, which maybe kind of the reason why the pitching has struggled down in Syracuse.
Yeah.
They just keep taking their relievers up and down, and I don't know. We'll see, but I think eventually a lot of those guys will be back down. Like I said, the trade deadline, grabbing relievers, and I think the Syracuse team will get better down the stretch.
Travis Jankowski ahead of schedule in his rehab, coming back from thumb surgery. Hopes to be returning now, a target date of July 1 as opposed to mid-July. So expect to see him probably do maybe just a couple rehab games again. Probably all this depends where. And then Jacob deGrom has thrown his 4th bullpen session that occurred on Tuesday. Has one more scheduled today, which is Thursday. And if all goes well, next step is going to be live batting for deGrom. So really progressing along nicely there. And then Trevor May has begun a light throwing program and will continue to ramp up his rehab process in the coming days and the next week ahead. So all is coming together a little bit for the Mets pitching staff.
Yeah, a lot of injury updates. Normally it's the other New York team with all the injury updates the last few years. So it's pretty good to see that the Yankees are kind of staying healthy. But we still have a long way to go.
Yep. All right, for the Mets, one more game today against the Brewers. That's at 7:10 on SNY. Rookie, I wouldn't say maybe phenom exactly, but he's really come on pretty good as of late. Just hasn't gotten run support. It's Aaron Ashby, 1-5 on the year. And you'll see what I mean by this. He's at a 3.91 ERA, which tells me he's doing what he has to do. Not a ton of help coming from behind. And then Tyler Maygill gets the start from the Mets, 4-2, a 4.5 ERA for him. 4 games await the Mets this weekend. Well, kind of. They're home against the Marlins, 28-33. A feisty 4th place AL East. This is the Marlins team that's been punching above their weight the past couple weeks. This is not going to be an easy series.
They had that team meeting, right?
Yeah.
And then it kind of woke them up a little bit.
Well, it was about, I guess some of the guys weren't liking the way Jazz Chisholm was doing things, which is odd considering Jazz Chisholm is by far and away their best player, which I don't recommend pissing off your best player, but hey, do you. But look, this is a Marlins team that, excuse me, I thought was really good at the start of the year. Probably wouldn't make the playoffs, but certainly punch above their weight. A little bit better than I think a lot of people probably realized, and they're kind of showing that a little bit right now, the way they've been playing. So tomorrow, their TBA against Cookie Carrasco, 7-2 on the year, a 3.93 ERA for Cookie. It's on SNY at 7:10. Saturday at 4:10 first pitch on WPIX affiliates across New York State. Braxton Garrett, 1-1, 4 flat ERA for the Marlins, going against Taijuan Walker for the Mets, 4-2, a 3.08 ERA. Sunday, 1:40 start again on your local Picks affiliate. This one's probably the pitching matchup of the weekend. Sandy Alcantara for the Marlins, 6-2, a 1.68 ERA against Chris Bassett. And then Monday, getaway day for both teams, 1:10 start, first pitch on SNY, both TBAs at the moment there. So Man, Sunday's going to be a fun game. If you can get in front of a TV for that, must watch. Sandy's a fantastic pitcher, probably one of the more underrated ones in baseball because he's just stuck on the Marlins. And then Chris Bassett, again, if he can have a game like he did against the Brewers here on Tuesday, that's going to be a really fun matchup to watch.
Yeah, I'm just thinking here. I don't think the Mets are going to win the series. I think it's going to be a split,
Yeah, I was thinking that too, actually, 2-2 split.
especially just because the last 2 weeks they're 500 ball, really.
Yeah, I thought 2-2 split as well. So I think it all depends who ends up throwing Monday for the Marlins and Mets, I guess, to that degree.
I think it's going to come down to some bullpen issues.
I know technically that TBA spot for the Mets anyway is for sure Peterson.
That's an
I'm
L.
pretty sure for the Marlins that is Cabrera's spot in the rotation. I could be wrong, but it will be interesting to kind of see what happens there. So, all right, let's move on. We're kind of running up against the clock, as we call it here, and we'll touch briefly on our minor league teams. It's been a interesting tale of 2 weeks for them. Normally, it's, we talk about, how Syracuse is struggling, Rochester is doing good, but it's a little bit of flip the script mirror image this week.
And it really makes no sense what Rochester is doing right now.
Yeah, they've been in a tough spot here. We'll touch on that in a second because they are in the middle of an 8-game losing streak. They've dropped both games so far in Scranton, losing 7-0 and then 10-6 yesterday. After losing all last week in St. Paul to the Saints. Tough spot for the Red Wings. It was good to see yesterday that the Bats did get going a little bit. That being said, I'd like to say reinforcements are kind of coming for them. At that point, also, we've kind of seen, and this is the part of the minor league season where you do see a lot of rosters kind of move and shake and shift, and we've seen it already with Rochester just because the Nationals, we've talked about, and it's not that good. So they're trying out different people and stuff like that. Second baseman Andrew Young was assigned to Double-A Harrisburg from Rochester. Good news. I know Nate is going to be thrilled about this one. Nicky Banks, two-bag Nicky, has begun his rehab assignment. He has joined the High A Wilmington Blue Rocks.
That's my guy right there, Nicky Banks.
So, hope is on the horizon for you, Nate. Two pitchers were selected by Washington and called up over the course of the past week. Right-hand pitcher and relief Reed Garrett. And then our starting pitcher of the month, player of the month for May for the Red Wings, Jackson Tatro, got called up and got absolutely, unfortunately, shelled on Tuesday. It kind of sucked because I actually was watching that game a little bit. It was on MLB Network, and I was like, oh, man. And I know the Nationals announcers or no, actually, I think it was the Braves announcers, actually, that they were showing on there. We're saying that, he has to not be afraid to throw inside to these guys, but I kind of chuckled because I don't know who was catching for the Nationals, but everything was set up mid and away. Like, you can't, if you're a pitcher, you can't throw inside when your catcher's setting up in that spot every time. So it's a little pet peeve. I apologize. I will defend my beloved Jackson, though, in this case. Corresponding moves, Jordan Weems was optioned down there. And then another pitcher, Francisco Perez, was recalled by Washington. But a little bright spot here. Shortstop Alcides Escobar has began a rehab assignment with Rochester. Don't know if he'll quite make it to the 2-week homestand. It starts next Tuesday, by the way.
He homered in his first at bat.
So I don't know if he'll quite make it there, but another good major league guy to kind of have in the clubhouse here, albeit for, again, a short time, but certainly help with a team that clearly is good but young. They're in the roughest stretch that they've been in all year. They have dropped to second place in the International League East at this point, but they still have a lot of talent out of this team. I mean, Joey Meneses is still doing really good. Andrew Stevenson's still doing really good. It's just a tough spot here at this point because, like I said, it's a rough spot. And when you're a young team, it kind of is tough to come out of those spots. But that's the beauty, right? I mean, you have a guy like Escobar who, like I said, albeit on rehab, probably a good guy to have in there, albeit just for a week, kind of, show some guys what you can and can't do in these situations.
Yeah, and shout out to Luis Garcia. I saw that he was named the national starting shortstop yesterday, so that's pretty cool. And when Escobar gets back up to the big league club, I guess he's going to bounce around the infield. So, pretty cool.
Interesting, yeah. So, yeah, like I said, I mean, this is a tough time of year for these minor league teams, especially the AAA teams. Like I said, you got guys coming, going a lot of times, and it becomes a bit of a mess. Syracuse Mets, albeit in the basement of the International League East, still right now in 10th place. Currently riding a 3-game winning streak. A nice little bright spot for the team. This one dates back to the Sunday wrap-up game with Scranton Wilkes-Barre, which they won 10-1. But they are currently, like I said, they're in Norfolk this week playing the Tides. Won 18-6 on Tuesday and then 5-4 yesterday. So the bats are coming along. Pitching is still kind of up for debate, but the bats are kind of getting there a little bit. Daniel Palka's kind of gotten hot again. And look, again, I talk about veteran presence in a locker room. Palka can be that guy, obviously, guy who has a few years' experience with the White Sox, but has also been around. I mean, obviously, we mentioned, right? He was in Rochester last year, now in Syracuse, so he knows, in theory, the area kind of well. But, a good guy to kind of have in the locker room to kind of settle these young guys out. And, like I mentioned, now Syracuse has kind of hovered at this point where they're 15 games below 500, but they've kind of been at this point now for a while overall. They kind of have these ebbs and flows, but they've kind of found their footing. Like I mentioned, probably now about 3 weeks ago, it kind of sucks that they just start off so bad because I don't necessarily think the team is actually all that bad, but we get off to a rough start like they did. It kind of hampers what you can do the rest of the year. You mentioned the pitching earlier, Kyle. The Mets option Steven Nogasak to Syracuse earlier this week. Obviously recalled Jake Reed. We've touched on that already. Outfielder Matt Rudick was re-signed back to High A Brooklyn. Here's a name that's going to be of interest to some people. Trevor Cahill was assigned to Syracuse from the Florida Gulf Coast League Mets. Cahill, major league veteran. So, again, probably a guy that the Mets are more or less trying out. See what you got at this point. He's kind of bounced throughout the minors the past couple of years. Good news, Mark Ventios was activated off the IL. Catcher Hayden Singer was assigned to Double-A Binghamton. And the Mets have optioned outfielder Khalili back to Syracuse and recalled Yohan Lopez. So, some guys who, look, good bats are coming in for Syracuse. A veteran pitcher coming on for Syracuse as well. Things are kind of looking on the bright side for the S-Mets here the past couple days.
Yeah, they're definitely getting some of their players back. Khalil Lee, I know he hit his first big league home run, but I don't know. I don't think he's the player that the Mets thought he was going to be. And I just don't really think there's a spot for him right now on the big league roster. So I'm kind of wondering if eventually he could potentially be in a trade package. I mean, he hasn't even really hit that well in the minors. I believe he's hitting 221 in 34 games. I mean, it's nothing really to brag about. So I think that's interesting to see what will happen with him.
Well, he was also a guy that started the year batting sub 100, so but he's come on good. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the Mets offense has come along at this point. A lot of it has to do with, as you mentioned, though, with the Mets issues, their pitching, which can kind of cause a little bit of ruckus. If there's any positive, the S-Mets, they're on the road for one more week, albeit next week is in Rochester for the third round of the Battle of the Dishes, next week before they finally get back home to MBT Bank Stadium in Syracuse. So, takes care of the pod for today and the week. Any thoughts before we head out of here, guys? All good? Any big plans for the weekend?
Nope, I don't think any big plans. Just kind of sitting back, watching sports.
All right.
Yeah, hoping we can get to Frontier Field for that back half of that 2-week doubleheader, Paul.
Yeah.
Or two-week doubleheader, you know what I mean. But
2-week homestand. I got
there
you.
we go.
I got you.
I'm hoping we can get back there. Always a good time when we head up to Frontier Field.
Oh, yeah. I'm hoping to get to Syracuse eventually here, too, so I apologize to my S-Mets brethren. So.
Yeah, definitely I agree with that, too. We need to get up there, especially if Scherzer's there.
Yes.
And that's it for sure.
Yeah. And I know I know Syracuse actually had, at the end of last series, sold out 3 straight games.
Wow, really?
Yep. So.
I think fans just want to come out and see baseball. They don't really care about how good the Syracuse team is.
True, but I know Syracuse, again, it's a lot like Rochester. I mean, it's a baseball town. They like their baseball there, and, I mean, they're one of the more historic franchises collectively in the International League. I mean, Syracuse had actually technically a major league team, as in Rochester for, I think, 2 years technically in the 1880s, but that's neither here nor there for this podcast. Anyway, Concrete Jungle New York Baseball Podcast. You can catch us live here on YouTube, watch anytime there. You can also listen on Anchor and Spotify. You can also watch on Spotify if you don't want to bother with us on YouTube, which really hurts my feelings, but that's okay as long as you watch us one way or another. Concrete Jungle, produced by Nate Sharman, Paul Russo, Kyle Evans. We will catch everybody next Monday. Have a good weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you then.